My next project is going to involve the Sinclair C5, and what I'm going to be doing is adding a disc brake to the rear wheel. At the moment the Sinclair, well, by standard the Sinclair C5 has a drum brake on the back. I've already made a start. I've taken off the old drum brake here and the old lower bracket that held the cable, and this is what I'm left with. What I've done to start off with is this bearing carrier here. I've taken out all the old drum brake. This was facing the other way around originally and the drum brake was in here. So I've taken out obviously the drum brake material and flipped this bearing carrier around the other way. So now it's flush with the chassis rail here. This just turns round and fits the other way. My plan is to make a bracket that fits onto these two holes here and possibly goes down and folds underneath, because underneath here there's a couple of bolts which hold this bearing carrier on. So I'm hoping to have a bracket that goes down, kind of down here, attaches to these two holes, these three holes here, they're not used for anything anymore, and goes down and bolts under here. That's my plan anyway. Whether it will work out that way, I don't know yet. But what I've got so far on my plan, so this is the old wheel here. Obviously it's got a kind of a metal thing on here anyway. This is like a heat sink for the drum brake, to dissipate any heat coming off this. But this is a really inefficient braking system. It locks up really easily. It's not very good at all. So what I've actually got is a wheel from the left hand side of the Sinclair C5. Now this is normally the driven wheel, which drives off the motor. It's obviously got a spline shaft there. So what you can actually do, these wheels, by the way, these plastic wheels are exactly the same both sides. The only difference is the bit of metal here. That's the only thing different about them. This just pushes in, this comes out really easily on this wheel, and on this one this is pushed in as well. So my plan on this wheel is to, obviously I've got the bearing there, so that will then go on the right hand wheel. And what I'm going to do, I've got my brake caliper here. This is just a standard brake caliper you can get on eBay very cheaply. I think it was about £5 or £6, something like that. They're marked for the actual size of disc which they go with. So this is a front 180mm or a rear 160. So I've got a matching 160mm brake disc here. This was about £3, I think, very cheap. 160mm. And my plan is to basically, what I'm going to do is cut out this section here. So this section here I'm going to cut out, and then I'm going to mount my disc to that, so it goes there, and then that then fits in here on this wheel, and then that will then, obviously the caliper will go here, and that will act as my my braking system. So before I do that, what I need to do, I'm thinking I might not actually fix this to the wheel. I might leave it as a bit of a kind of floating caliper type design, because this pushes in here and it's got these little pegs here which kind of stop it from spinning. And if this is good enough for the motor, or the torque from the motor to drive the vehicle, then it should in theory be good enough for the braking system. I don't think this is going to need to be screwed in or bolted to the actual wheel, but it may be, I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But what I'm going to do first is, before I cut out this section here, obviously so it fits over, you need to cut out this section here so that the you know, the hub or the shaft from the wheel, from the you know, the shaft underneath the vehicle can go through here. What I'm going to do is cut out or mark out where to drill the holes here. So my plan is to get a bit of wire or something like this. I'll just go in my drawer here if I can find something. So I'm going to use a bit of wire pushed into this gap around here between the disc and the this section here, just to make sure it's perfectly centered. That's what I'm probably going to do, and then I'm going to mark out the holes, drill the holes, and then I'm going to cut out this section here. So obviously make sure you you mark it first before you drill the hole. Well, make sure you drill the holes before you cut out this section here. So I'm going to do that now and get this fitted. Obviously this needs to be bolted to the disc on this side. Might need some washers through there, I'm not sure yet. It might not actually, might not even need washers through there. We'll see how it goes. But I think this makes quite a nice little bracket to hold the disc. So all you really need to do is get hold of a second hand left hand side wheel, and then hopefully you can do this mod. And this is very cheap. I mean, this is £3, this was £6 or £7, I can't remember. Oh, I've also got a bit of aluminium here to make the bracket. This, I don't think I need this much aluminium. I'll tell you at the end how much I actually used. This was quite cheap. I think this was £5. It's 3mm thick aluminium. It's very, very strong. It's good stuff. It's got like a backing thing on the other side, so it's shiny. Right, so I'm going to do that now. I'm going to mark out this, cut it out, and we'll see how it goes from there. Okay, so that done. I used a bit of wire, as I said, to centre this, and then drilled through the disc into the aluminium, so I kind of held it in place and cut the holes so they now perfectly line up. You can see there it's perfectly central to that ring in there, so that's good. Cut out the middle bit, this bit here, and to do that I use one of these really cheap circular saw things you can get on eBay, various sizes in here, and I use the 38mm in there, and that's done quite a good job. So that will go in there. Screw that onto there, got my nuts and bolts, so that's that pretty much done. And the next thing to do is make the bracket for the caliper. Okay, let's get on with that. So here's my disc fitted. I had to use taper bolts to hold the disc on, and also the caliper bracket, because there's not much space between this disc and my bracket I've made. So these are tapered bolts. I had to taper these holes a little bit as much as I could. It's quite difficult to drill into this stainless steel. It's very hard steel actually, really hard. So I had a bit of difficulty drilling that. I managed to get a little bit of taper in there. As you can see there, they're slightly tapered. You can see the nuts the other side there. So this carrier is pressed onto the plastic wheel there, as you can see. It's quite strong. I don't think it needs bolts going all the way through. This is nice and secure. So that is that bit done. Here's the old brake shoes and the other hardware I took off. So here's the lower bracket that holds the cable. This is a nut that goes in the middle of the shoes. Here's the actual actuator arm, and these are the two shoes and the spring, so we don't need those anymore. Here's a quick look at the bracket I've made. This is what it looks like. To give you an idea of how much aluminium you're going to need, it's roughly 8 centimeters tall by roughly 12 centimeters wide. The hole for the axle is 24mm. So what I'll do, I'll take a photocopy of this. So if anybody wants to copy this and make their own bracket, they're more than welcome to. Let me just show you what I've done here. So here's my bracket. You can see it there. cutout for the shaft that the wheel goes on. This is a 6mm tapered bolt. This is an 8mm. These two are 6. And this is what the caliper will bolt onto on the top here, these two holes. There's my cable. Use the original cable. I've tapered the bracket round here so that it folds round slightly, just at 45 degrees. Makes it very, very strong. Doesn't move anywhere at all. Very, very solid. 3mm aluminium. If we look around the other side, there's the back of the old brake shoe carrier. Just flip round the other way. Nice and neat. Works perfectly. Doesn't affect it at all turning that round. So here's my caliper again. This was £6 on eBay. The hardware, the bolts I had to buy, I didn't have any tapered bolts, I had to buy those. They're about £5. The other bits and pieces, let's quickly look at that. The disc was about £3 on eBay, and that was it. So it's a very cheap modification. What I'll do now is put it all together and we'll see how it works. Here's the caliper fitted. Works very well indeed. So there you go. Very nice upgrade. What I'll do now is fit the cable. There we go, cable fitted. Works beautifully. It's a very linear motion on that cable. It's really nice. Locks the wheel up really well. No problem at all. One thing I forgot to mention is that on my bracket I made it a little bit too low, so I've had to put 3 washers on there to kind of lift the carrier up a little bit. See that? 3 washers there. But apart from that, it works really well. Very pleased with that. Much better. So what I'll probably do next is do a similar job on the front wheel. We'll have to have a look at that, see what we can do. But for now, there's my rear wheel brake caliper done. Very pleased with that.